We are doing a webinar. I say we because I have one of the best guests in the world anybody could possibly ask for. I've got the head of commercial sales in the UK, Nick Blampede. He is so clever. He gets a plus in a blood test. So please welcome him. Are you there, Nick?
Appreciate the kind words, Jason, as always. I believe it's A++.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so we're here. You can see the screen. You can hear us. We're here for at least the next 45 minutes. I believe we can do this in 45 minutes. Questions, please ask questions as normal in the question chat. Nick will answer the questions as he goes. So feel free to do that. And at the end, we will just recap on some of the most common questions. So sounds done. There's no survey this week. We will have a survey at some point. There is a technical and technical product webinar where we just hit here to say, you know, what do you want to hear, what do you want to see. So if you do want anything you want to see or hear about SolarEdge and you've not getting the information, please type it in the chat to say subjects you want, and we will make sure we do a webinar on it. Okay, so here's to the nitty gritty then. Let's get involved. So what we're going to cover today is a bit about SafeDC, because this is fundamental to SolarEdge. The SafeDC concept is basically the unique version that nobody else has that SolarEdge can do. Then we'll look at how the SafeDC joins with the One Controller, so One Controller and Safety. An example of the installation, communication, how you get all the devices to communicate together, how you would do connections of the meter and the firefighter feature. So we used to call it the firefighter gateway, but to be honest, it's not a gateway, it's a feature. So it's a firefighter feature on the One Controller. So that's why I put the extra F. That isn't a typo. I call it a firefighter feature now. Connection of the sensors, commissioning, and some FAQs. Now, feel free to ask your questions in the chat, but I hope that we would have answered all your questions by the time we get to the end and picked up the most common ones in the FAQs at the end. So please enjoy and let us know if you've got any questions. If you want information about the CSS OD, we did do a video before, a webinar before, but please feel free to reach out to Nick for any questions to do with the CSS OD 197 if you have any questions regarding it. So SafeDC, securing the safe work environment. It's really important now. The more I am involved with SolarEdge, the more working groups I get asked to join, and the more the current theme is safety. What can we do to ensure the installations are safe? Not just while they're being installed, not while they're in operation, but also when they need to do maintenance, when people need to get onto the roof. And this where SolarEdge wins because of SafeDC. We are the only device out there, the only product that you can turn off, and it will drop each optimizer to 1 volt. So each panel will be open circuited and they will stay at 1 volt. That means that anybody can go onto the roof. They can remove the tiles on the roof. They can do the guttering. They can check the man safe. All that without any possible risk of a difference in potential. So they might be on a metal roof and then reach out for stability, grab hold of a panel. And some systems, some of the traditional systems, they have a high leakage to earth. That would be a different potential, and not saying it's going to be fatal, but it could fall, or could cause with maybe a slight fall, a trip, or uncomfortable experience. So that's why with SolarEdge you can turn off the inverter. That then goes into a depowering mode, a shutdown mode, where the optimizers go from production and they then go to SafeDC. So this is basically the core part of SolarEdge is the SafeDC. And it's using this with our inverters and the One Controller and linking it to the fire alarm system that we can give you an overall protection. So if there was a an incident where the fire alarm was into not fault mode but operational mode, the firefighter panel or the fire alarm panel would link directly to the One Controller. The One Controller links to the PV inverters, and with a matter of seconds, the signal will be sent to shut down, and the comfort of the fire rescue service going in, knowing that if they were to go onto the roof, that there would be no additional hazards such as electricity or electrocution, or they didn't have to worry about the PV system being live. So yes, great product, and we are the only company out there that has this. Nobody else has our technology. And just for the test at the very end, there isn't a test, but I like to say for the test at the end, we have over 500 things that nobody else has ever thought of. So that's the difference between SolarEdge and traditional technology. Traditional technology is still based on the 1970s when NASA went into space and needed a solar solution, whereas SolarEdge have not only thought, but they've applied 500 different things that nobody else could. So let's move on and see what the next slide is. So I think I've just talked about this one, as I always do. I like to talk about the slide before the slide turns up, not because I'm showing off, it's just because I get into a flow. But basically, SafeDC allows you to protect your property while it's being installed, during operation, and when you need to carry out maintenance, or when you need to carry out maintenance on the roof or around the roof. Turning the inverter off starts SafeDC. The arc fault detection or the buildup of heat around the optimizer. The optimizer has a thermal temperature on it, or the Sense Connect, which is on the optimizer, which is measuring the heat around the connector. As soon as these things all alert, or insulation faults, they all go back down to 1 volt. So any of these would trigger the SafeDC. And this is what it looks like in a graphic form. So here you have a system, the inverter's turned off, the panels are grayed out because they're not producing, and both my speedos here, one for sunshine, which is a radiance, and the other one is for voltage. So you'll see when I press the button, we turn the inverter on, the keep alive signal is activated, and that's every, I think it's 30 or 40 milliseconds. It's basically a heartbeat, says stay on, stay on, stay on, stay on, stay on. And then once the signals get sent to the optimizers then switch from their default value, which is SafeDC, and then go into production. You can see how they are now changing color to dark, how the radiance is shining, and you've got the power and the voltage there as well. So all good. Now press the button again. One more time. Switch goes to off, which could basically be any of the issues that I've said. You turn it to off, and then what will happen is the keep alive signal will disappear. The power optimizer will go back to safe mode, and the irradiance is still there, but the power generation is 0 and the voltage is 0. Voltage is not 0, the voltage is under 50 volts for commercial, but in realistic terms, that's about 30 volts. Now, bearing in mind, you only need the SafeDC voltage is 120 volts, so we are miles under what is required. So what does the One Controller do? Well, this is the One Controller here. It's probably not far off the actual physical size of it, to be honest with you. You could more or less scale it up. Basically what it does is this is now the brains. So whereas the inverter was the brains, the inverter did all the hard work before, did the export limitation, used the firefighter gateway to control the inverters, it used the CCG to do the sensors or the meter, or even did the meter on its own. All this has changed now, and now this is the brains. And the beauty of this product is that it is much, much better, more advanced, more able to cope with the modern needs we have. So it still gives you all the information on the monitoring. There's nothing different there. It allows you to use sensors. It allows you to use different meters. It allows you to connect to the firefighter alarm, firefighter panel. It allows you to connect to the CSS OD. So now this is our new brain, which allows us to integrate with all of the SolarEdge features, and everything will be shown on the CNI platform. So you can see again, we've got the similar picture here. We've got the heartbeat going round, telling the inverters and optimizers everything's okay to go. And then what would happen if the fire alarm here or the emergency stop, it would be pressed. The signal will be sent to the inverters to say shut down. The inverters would then depower the optimizers by ramping down production, as you can see on here, and going to safe DC. So it's not just turning the inverters off. Now we've got a device here that allows us to link to the fire alarm panel itself. And we've also got an optional display screen on the top, and you'll see an image of that later on. So you'll be able to see what's actually happening. The problem we had with our inverters that had screens, and also with the CCG and the Firefighter Gateway, we're very limited to what we could show. We only had 160 characters on there, so we couldn't show much. So it was very limited to what wording we can use. And I'm sure you know with Setup, which by the way, Setup is now being end of life, and we're switching over fully to SolarEdge Go. SolarEdge Go, you can go to the install or the manage, and you can connect to the device remotely, or you can do while you're standing in front of it. The images and the amount of data and information you get on that screen now is amazing compared to the 160 characters. So it's the same thing here for the One Controller. With the Firefighter feature, the Firefighter Gateway feature, we can now show you so much more information. I'm going to show you these images later on. So you can have an optional screen. You don't have to have it. You can see these things on your on the SolarEdge Go app, but you can have an additional screen. It's a USB, not USB, sorry, it's a HDMI connection, and most, if not all, devices are supported. The device I got from Amazon when I made a test box was just a normal HDMI screen, cost me about £49.99, and popped that on there, connected it, no settings, no difficulty, no faffing around. It just literally worked and showed me straight away. We can update as always, as and when we need to. So if we on commissioning, you need to make sure you have the latest update as standard, or if we have a feature that improves, or we might have a bug or something like that, we can update remotely. So again, as an installer, no need for you to go to site. Everything can be done remotely. The screens that you would see would be very much the ones that you would expect when you power something down. So on the Firefighter Gateway, it used to say shutting down, but it didn't actually give you any more information. So now we give you the solar voltage on there, we give you the power, and we say it's reducing voltage. And it tells you how many devices are safe. So 12 or 25 are safe at the moment, and we're shutting down. The next one is the solar PV system safe, and for this particular site we've got 10 volts, but as I said, you would normally have probably in the real terms 30 volts per string, and that's the value you would get on here. So normally the inverter runs at 750 volts. When you turn the inverter off with safe DC or with the Firefighter feature activated, it will give you probably around 30 volts is the value I would expect. And at the bottom here, it tells you that the button was pressed, when it was pressed, and how many devices are safe. So 25 are safe. And then it reminds you that the maximum threshold for safety is 120 volts. So really, really good visual impact.
What I like about this product too, Jason,
yes,
is that our original Firefighter Gateway only allowed for one display screen. It was quite a small screen. Because we've got the HDMI output on the One Controller, we can actually split that output and present the screen you're displaying right now in the reception or the foyer of the school or hospital or business. And we could also have the same screen replicated next to the alarm panel or the PV distribution board. So we get an opportunity to present critical information in more locations around the building with the HDMI output.
Absolutely. And also, please remember that you will get notified on the CNI platform. You would also get a email alert as normal to say these things have happened. So if you've selected the alerts, you've chosen the correct alerts, and you put the contact details for the alerts in the alert section, you will get the information.
What's also key is now that we can de-energize the battery storage system at the same time. So this is not de-energization of the PV, Jason. We're also going to be able to switch off CSS OD 102, CSS OD 197 when the alarm panel is activated or the e-stop button is pushed. So complete BESS and PV shutdown.
Absolutely, and it's quite impressive because normally the CSS ODs are some distance away from the building and also some distance away from the PV. So it's super amazing that we've managed to construct such a great product that can do that. So yes, it's really is a great product. Peace of mind, basically. That's what it gives you, complete peace of mind. This here is just a one of our test products that, not test products, one of our products we take around to demo. You can see we've got a screen on there. It's actually a real product. It will work. You press the button, it ramps down, simulated voltages on there. But yeah, it basically shows you exactly what you need. And you can see it's not a big box. This box is no bigger than a laptop, let's say, for visualization. So the laptop screen is basically what you would see there on the cover. So a small HDMI screen here just to fit in the box, but you can have any size you want. The one controller is at the bottom, and directly above that is the emergency stop. You can link it to a call point if you wish, whatever you wish to do, but it's basically either a normally open or normally closed circuit. You can make it whatever you wish.
But as you said, Jace, you could fabricate your own control panel there. In the background, I'm actually working with some board manufacturers to give our customers a prefabricated solution. So in theory, you'll be able to purchase the one controller with the screen and the wiring fully assembled, ready for install on site, or if you're technically inclined, you could create your own enclosure and setup.
Yes, it wasn't difficult to do. The majority of parts came from Amazon, very easy, very off the shelf to make for the one I created. So it wasn't difficult. Even the wiring, very simple. I will show you. So the one ecosystem, what could we do? Well, we have the one controller here. That's the brains, okay? And the brains needs arms and legs and limbs and eyes and things like that to work or to survive. So how do we do it? Let me turn on my laser pointer. Here we go. So here's the one controller here. You can see we've got the optional monitoring or visual display you can have to give you the firefighter feature. Again, it's optional, don't need to have it. The one controller connects directly to the internet connects to the cloud connects to the CNI platform. So that's basically as normal you would expect. So what's the other way around? Well, SolarEdge Go app will connect to the one controller for commissioning. So that's all as you would expect. So underneath this, what have we got? Well, we've got the ability to put the environmental sensors, and these are RS485 sensors, not the analog sensors that we used to have. So there's one question that we need to ask is what sensors can we have? So they have an application note, and that will be sent after the webinar with all the details of what, where, how, what, and if, and things like that you would expect. So we'll send that to you, don't worry. We then got the 4 outputs. So these are on-off devices. Currently, we have one of these on-off devices is used for the firefighter gateway feature. We are going to have another one of these released fairly soon for the generator, which is similar to the power reduction interface, but unlike the power reduction interface drops the power, but this will switch to safe DC mode. So we will have 2 options on here, and then there are another 2 outputs that we can turn on and off things. So if you've got a suggestion on your site or in the future what you need to control, we can do that. So give us some ideas to what you would like to have turned on and off, and we can do that. We've then got the ability to link the EV chargers and the energy meters, and again we will send what supported energy meters we have. We do support the K2 SolarEdge Energy Meter, the Watno version. That is fundamental for the UK, so we support that. Now, while we're talking about meters, G100 is an important thing. Without the one controller, you revert to the SolarEdge G100 solution. With the one controller, you go to the Hark G100 solution. Okay, so two different things. So G100 operates a different way. G100 for us in the basic form is wired, so everything has to be physically connected to each other. With the one controller and G100, because we use the local network, everything on the same router on the same site, so the local connection on the same site, we can communicate to all our devices via that and meet the required times that G100 have. So that's why we have a slightly different G100 solution for this as we do to the normal meters. But then got all the inverters. You'll see on here Ethernet. Now, what we are planning to do is we're planning to slightly change things, very slightly, and that's to ease the communication bottleneck, let's say. So what we're trying to do is we're encouraging people to put all the inverters, not just leader follow, but all the inverters when we fit a one controller onto the local network. So you can have a switch, so each of them becomes a leader. This means that each inverter can get the information straight away rather than waiting for its leader to pass it on. You can still have them RS485, so if you've got an existing site, it will still work fine. But future installations, we're basically saying, let's look at having each inverter as a leader. That speeds up communication and allows everything to work just as you want it to. And then we've got the CSS OD that connects directly to the to this position, if I remember rightly, on the one controller. So the CSS OD connects directly to it. The inverters themselves will go to a switch, which I'll show you later on. And then the fire alarm panel is one of the on-off ports. Okay, the fire alarm feature. But I've got a more in-depth picture afterwards, which I'll show you. So this is the device here. You can see we've got a USB port for updating. We've got a HDMI port as well. We've got a green port on there as well, which is where all the connections, the cable connections go, which you'll see just here. That's where we connect everything. And this is what we would expect to have on a normal installation. So we've got the PV inverters here. As I said, they're both leaders. So they are connected to a switch. The Ethernet connects to the outside world or to your router, and then to the switch again. The one controller connects to the switch. The green plug here, which you can see, this is where we would connect what we used to have the BAG cables, and they are here. Don't worry, I've got a bigger picture so you haven't got to squint. Bigger picture on here for you to see, and you can see similar things, BAG, but rather than BAG we've gone GAB. So just to not confuse you, just to make it a little bit different. And they have different terminals to connect to. The fire alarm, emergency stop have different connections to connect to, and again I will show you these in a bigger picture. This is the energy meter here, the K2 version. This is the AC side. These are the dip switches here. These are the CT cables, and this is where the communication is. So it's very, very straightforward. The only thing that will be completely new to you will be this position here, which I will explain in the next couple of slides. So for the firefighter feature, what you need to do is connect a 24-volt power supply, and this here, number 19, is the plus. Okay, 19 is plus to 9, 21 is minus. So this is the plus side. Okay, connect it to 21 and 19, and then the emergency stop as well in the circuit to 9. That's it. That's how simple it is. So you get yourself a 24-volt transformer or power supply, and you wire it as such. For meters, okay, bearing in mind that's these two at the top here. So for meters 1, 3, and 5, so GBA. I think that's slightly wrong. Let's just check on here. GAB. Okay, GAB is correct. That one is wrong. I will swap these two over. So I've got this wrong here, I think. So I'll check. Basically, you connect the meter to here. If you want to connect to RS5, RS4852, you've got 8, 6, and 7. So they are written on there quite clearly, and you'll see in the next picture where 8, 6, and 7 are. So 8, 6, and 7. So 7 is there, 6 is here, and 8 is there. It's not what I would call supernumeric order. It's a bit difficult, but once you get in the habit of doing it, it's perfectly fine. So this picture here showing the meter in these here, RS4851. When we've got the sensors, we can either connect the sensors into RS4851 or the optional RS4852 port here. And again, the sensors need a 24 volts power supply. Now you'll notice that all the sensors are connected into each other rather than going back to the one controller. This allows it to a lot more connection for you on your side, for you to daisy chain, connecting to series as well. So everything should be straightforward. So series and parallel connections for these as well. We are limited to one thing, and currently that is we can only show 10 devices on the monitoring portal, so 10 sensors. But don't be alarmed, because you can get sensors here which cover the ambient temperature, the irradiance, the wind, the module temperature, all of those on one sensor. So you don't need to buy 4 different sensors. So you can have visibility of 10, but you can have up to 20 connected. But again, you don't need more than, you can get one sensor that does multi-functions. So if you do need to do northeast, southwest, literally it's 4 sensors is what you need. Now, all this requires a little bit more firmware for it to work nicely. So what we've gone on here is we've got a picture here showing you the latest firmware. So this would be where you would expect to see either on SolarEdge Go, or if you look at the inverter itself on the, well, so you can't see it, but we can see it internally. It's 4.24.509, and what you need to do is you need to make sure that support update these inverters to this. Now, how are we going to do that? To make easy life for you and easy life for us, when you know you're going to do an installation with a one controller, maybe the sensors, maybe the firefighter gateway feature, open a case and then populate all the information on there that you need, and I'll share the information you need to put on there. Open that case, send us the case number, and we can keep an eye on it. And we will make sure. Now, this is only a temporary solution. This is not for life. This is maybe just until the end of the month, and everything will be okay. It's just for now, because we've got products out there that haven't got the latest firmware on there, need the latest firmware. So these are the inverters. All the inverters need to have this firmware. The one controller itself needs to have this firmware, so version 1.5.2. And you can see this when you connect to the one controller. You'll see in the top right-hand corner what the firmware is. So again, open a case with us. We'll make sure. Now, once you get this, what you can do is you can get the one controller. You can unbox it, connect it to the internet at your office. As soon as it's connected online, the information that you share on the case will be put onto the team in the UK, and they add it to an automatic detection. So as soon as your product goes live, it's automatically detected, and the firmware is updated straight away. So you don't have to do anything. Just plug that device in, give us the details of it, and we will get that updated for you. So this is only, again, to the end of the month. It's not for the future. Okay. So what we've got here is it's going through the options of commissioning, and I've got this broken down a little bit slower, but basically SolarEdge Go is the device you need. Use the SolarEdge Go tool. Don't use Setup, because Setup is going to end of life. and that will make your life a lot easier. The beauty of this is you can access remotely. So you can remotely access the devices on the site, the one controller, the inverters. You can do everything on there. And if you make every inverter a leader, you'll be able to connect directly to each inverter as well. So what is the Firefighter Gateway commissioning, or the Firefighter feature commissioning flow? This is it. Basically, you select the device. Once you've selected it, you get the first pops up. We'll wait for the screen to pop up. Here we go. Next one here, next screen. Yes, you enter basically where it's normally open, normally closed in that screen, and commission it as normal. And this is basically saying the emergency has been detected. The Firefighter Gateway feature is activated on the inverter, and you can restore the system. So you can restore the system without going to site. So should it be a false alarm, or should it be someone's knocked an emergency stop and they don't know what to do, instruct them to release the emergency stop, and you can reset the system. Now, you do have the option on here of having a automatic reset. So if the emergency stop is reset, it automatically goes back to normal, or a manual one. It's entirely up to you whether you prefer the automatic or the manual. Configuration, basically it is very, very simple to do it. It makes it super easy for you to configure. You can select the normally open, normally closed, as I said. You can select how many devices you've got on there. It's great tool, the SolarEdge Go. Makes life so much easier. This is the actual slide that we waited for. You can see on here, you've got manual call points, you've got a drop-down menu there, you've got a fire alarm, and you could put the volts on there for 3 volts. You don't have to have 3 volts, that's just the screen that's captured that, okay? And then if there was a problem, event to a shutdown, you would see this on your SolarEdge Go app, should you be looking at that site, and it would show what the settings are, the power of the inverters, which would be 0, the power on the CSS OD, which again be 0 as well. And then all of this can be seen in the CNI platform. If you do want some additional training on the CNI platform, we can give that to you. It's better to do it in groups. So if you want to get your group of your company together, and we can make it a real live team event where we go through it and you can ask questions. Webinars are great. We can do a webinar on it as well, but it's a little bit better if you can interact straight away and ask questions. Say, I can do that, but I can't do this bit. So when would you deploy the one controller for CNI? So standalone PV, don't need it. Normal PV, so standard PV systems with import and export, again using our current G100, you don't need it. For PV and BMS integration, you don't need it. Now, if you've got sensors, yes, you need it, because the sensors are now RS485 rather than analog. If you want to have the firefighter feature added, or the fire alarm to link to it, yes, you need it. If you've got PV as well with CSS OD, yes, you need it. If you want the G100 complex system, yes, you've got it. Tick there. And if you want to do remote import, export metering needs, tick again. So any combination of these, or all put together with G100, CSS OD, PV, firefighter feature, and sensors, tick, 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 tick. Now, here are the frequently asked questions. Now, I know you know the answers. I know you're itching to shout at me, but don't worry, I can hear you. Well, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. What I should have said was I can't hear you and I can't see you, but please remember your vacuum cleaner has been gathering dirt on you for years. So, what DC transformers or volt thingies should I order? Recommend a 24 volt DC 1 amp transformer. Okay. What HDMI screen should I use? Standard HDMI screen will work with a one controller. I've not come across one that won't work. Everything seems to be fine. Does the inverter and one controller need to be on the same router? That's a good question. Yes, they do. They can be connected at different parts of the building or separate buildings, but must be on the same router, so the same local network. So not going out to the cloud. This is on the same network. How far can the one controller be from the fire alarm panel? So currently we say 20 meters, but remember you can use an auxiliary not auxiliary, auxiliary, an auxiliary interface for the fire alarm panel. So you can use, get them to put a auxiliary port wherever your one controller is, and that will work perfectly fine. What's the best way to ensure the installation goes as planned? That's always my favorite one. So the one controller needs to have the correct firmware. We said how you can do that by opening a case, and also that by the end of the month, we expect this not to be an issue. So you'd open a case as soon as possible. Let support have the IP, the MAC address, and the one controller. Plug the one controller into the internet, and it will automatically download the latest firmware. And again, you will be able to use the SolarEdge Go to configure. So it's very straightforward. Can I
I'd
use
also
the
add to that, Chase,
Oh,
that if it is critical, then by all means, the installers, the attendees are more than welcome to reach out to their account managers with that case number, and we can escalate to the appropriate people if you're on site and you need it to be updated then and there. But prepare in advance, but if need be, we can make those necessary escalations.
absolutely. And I remember the 4 Ps. Let's see if I can remember them now. Poor planning. Oh, no, proper planning prevents poor performance. There we go. So yes, absolutely. Open a case and give it to anybody that you know in SolarEdge, and we will make sure it is done. Can I use the Firefighter Gateway and CCG as well? Good question, but no, we can't use these because they run on a different software. 3.25 is the maximum they go up to, and as you've seen, we're on 4 point something on these ones. So you don't need them because the one controller now does all this. Now there is a product out there, we haven't tested it, and I will say SolarEdge have not tested it, and this is recorded, so I can always use this in my defense. There is products out there. I've researched them. I found 3 of them that will do analog to RS485 for sensors. So there will be a solution for you changing the CCG to the one controller. So anything should happen to the CCG or the Firefighter Gateway, the one controller will replace those, and you will be able to connect your sensors to it. Okay. Can I use the one controller in a remote location and connect it to a meter? Oh, yes, if it's connected to the same router as the inverter. Now, in theory, and we have tested this, in theory, you could have your inverters connected to one LTE modem and your one controller connected to another modem. In theory, it works, but it's not supported. And I tell you why it's not supported, because we don't get all the information just yet. So we are working on it. So it's not a supported configuration, as in don't expect it to give you everything, but it technically will work. Okay. And it will be supported within the coming weeks, where every bit of information you would expect to see will be on there. But at the moment, it's not a supported configuration, but technically it still works. Okay, what are the download and upload speeds I need? Now, this is important because if you are using a 4G or 5G router, it's an important question. We are finding out that we're getting people to have a minimum of 2 megabytes per second for the upload speed, but for the download, they've got 10 megabytes. We recommend 10 megabytes for both. Anything lower than 2 megabytes is going to give you problems with communication. So you've got lots of devices on there. You're going to have your sensors on there. They're going to be sending information, okay? Your inverter is going to be sending information. You're going to have more than one inverter. Your Firefighter Gateway feature is going to be communicating. That's not going to populate too much data unless it's needed. Your CCG, not CCG, your CSS OD is going to be sending data. All this is going to be sent to the cloud, and you need to have a very, very good upload speed for the router, okay? Can I use an LTE 4.5G? Absolutely you can. Now it's important that you remember this, that the CSS OD always connects to the one controller, the inverter and the one controller connect to the router, so they go on a switch. Okay, or they can connect directly to the router, or they can go on a switch. Can I connect the CSS OD inverter and one controller? And we're all the same. I don't know what I've done with that question, but I've confused myself with the question, and I tried to understand the question by if you mean. Okay, so if you mean a local network, then yes. And that I'm thinking here of a school with a building A, building B, building C, but they're all using the local intranet. They are all on the same network. So you can plug the devices in different places and they will be all on the same network. You can't have the one controller, the CSS OD on a 4G router. You can't have the inverters on a 4G router. It just won't respond quickly. And definitely you can't have it for G100. That doesn't work, unfortunately. It goes far beyond the 15 seconds, and it's not safe to do that. So that is the end of the presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it. You had a bit of excitement in the middle, and I know Nick's been answering the questions. So Nick, how have we got on? Have we answered people's questions?
We've answered most of the questions, Jason, but I think the group would also benefit from a recap. So a couple of questions. First one is for Martin. Does the screen need to be a touch screen to scroll through the pages? So Martin's referring to the LED, the screen connected to the controller, and the answer is no. Doesn't need to be a touch screen. In fact, don't buy a touch screen. We're simply displaying information from the controller. If the alarm's clear, then the screens will revert back to standard PV operation. So you do not need a touch screen for the one controller. A good question here from Chris S. Does the end customer benefit from having a one controller installed, getting any additional features? So Chris, essentially the one controller is going to future-proof your customer. If they don't have sensors, if they don't have a firefighter gateway need or a battery now, the one controller will give them the ability to add those in the futures. But of course, if you were putting a battery in it or they did want the FFG feature applied, you would go back and retrospectively install the one controller. A question from Mark. Does the CSS OD connect to the second Ethernet port on the one controller? Can this be configured, or is it automatically? Is it done automatic? The answer there, Mark, is you do need to connect CSS OD to Ethernet 2 on the one controller. If you drop me an email, I can send you the wiring schematic for that. In fact, anybody, I've got an upcoming CSS OD installation. Please drop myself or Jason an email and we can give you the wiring schematics. Good question here from Jim up in Scotland. Can the one controller receive commands from external devices connected to it? So answer to that, I suppose it depends on what type of command. The moment you can receive inputs from relays, etc., to turn the system on and off. In the future, we're working on Modbus integration or API integration specifically for battery storage. So at the moment, that's not supported, controlling of third parties, but that's certainly something that we're looking into. Question right at the start, Jason, before you ended the webinar prematurely, was from Chris, and Chris was asking, can we link the generator on site to the one controller to switch it off? So that's probably a good question for you to answer, Jason.
Yes, that's a great question. I did mention this when we looked at the on-off ports on the one controller. I said we have 4. One of them is taken up with the firefighter feature, and we are going to release a feature that allows you to put the generator input control there. So we used to use the power reduction interface, where we would run a link from the generator to the inverter, and then the inverters would be hardwired between. So what we need to do in this case is you will be able to run a link from your generator directly to the One Controller, so you could have via internet, whatever method you wanted to have, and we will be able to configure that in the future. So that is the next feature that will be released, is the generator on off. And obviously when the generator comes on, we will ramp stuff down. There was a feature you might remember called I think it was the APS, that allowed you to have the PV running at the same time of the generator, and that would be the next step after that for us to see whether that's possible, to see whether we can do that, whether we can still have the PV running, have the battery discharging when your generator's on. But at the moment, it's not supported, but it will be supported.
Excellent. Question around G100, your favorite topic, Jason. Is the
Yes.
One Controller G100 certified and capable of managing the battery and the inverter to make sure that export limits and import limits aren't exceeded?
Absolutely, yes. That is on the ENA type test register. I think it's under HARC, which, as you probably all know, if you don't know, HARC were one of the companies we purchased not so long ago, and now they are SolarEdge. So they're actually called SolarEdge Professional Services. So we don't call them HARC anymore. They are SolarEdge Professional Services. They're fully absorbed into SolarEdge. So yes, it is on there. You can look at it. You can see the actual diagrams on there, but basically we use the local internet. We don't use the cloud. So we don't come out of the One Controller into the cloud to the monitoring and then back. We use the local connection. This makes sure that we can achieve the 15-second communication and also the 15-second ramp down time. So you have to act within 15 seconds. So yeah, the G100's on there. You can look at it at your leisure, but yes, we support it. And as long as you are using the local network, all connected to the same router, please don't, it won't work with 4G, 5G routers. That won't work if you have the One Controller and the CSS OD on a 5G router, and then you have the PV. It won't work, unfortunately. You have to have it all on the same local network.
And then one last question from James. Can the One Controller turn off the PV and battery storage system on power failure while the backup generator is in operation?
So backup generator is I think we had a similar question before, didn't we? So that goes back to the 4 on-off connection. So once we get, we don't have a backup solution at the moment. But once there is a backup on the site, if that comes into case where the grid fails, we don't want our devices to come on. We can have a connection there. That would be part of the generator thing, which isn't supported now, but will be in the next few weeks.
So the alternative there would be to put the PV and BESS on the grid side of the automatic transfer
Correct.
switch, and then there wouldn't be
Yes.
the opportunity to backfeed
Correct.
the PV. Very good. So Jason, I think we might release the audience with 7 spare minutes late on a Friday afternoon. What do you think?
Excellent. Excellent, yes. So hope you've enjoyed it. You do have our emails. If not, we can put them in the chat. I don't know if you've done that, Nick, already, or...
Yep, I'll pop the emails in the chat.
Yeah. So yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed it. And keep in touch for the next one.
Thank you, Jason. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Bye-bye, all.